and I am a self-portrayed introvert. I'm not going to a house party. Nope. I'm staying home. I'm going to put my pajamas on. Cheetos call my name more than going and meeting people at a house party. But I love stopping somebody. There was a woman in a freaking red dress, and she was absolutely like, her red dress was flowing, and I had to stop her, and I was like, you look amazing. I just really wanted to tell you that. And she just went, really? Like it was almost like a devastating realization. And it was correct. It was like, yes, you do. That's my observation. Don't reject it. And then watch her walk away. I mean, literally the aura and the confidence, it exuded from her. And I'm like, God, if I can do that for multiple people, why wouldn't I? It's just a gift that we can give that is also going to give back, because we're going to get more and more connections. It's just something that I love.
Do you think I would get maced?
Pick your people.
Welcome to the Growth Mixtape Podcast, and I'm your host, Bob Mathers. Now, just a reminder, if you know someone that needs to hear this episode, please share it with them. And if you like what we're doing here, join my 100% free Substack at substack.bobmathers.com or get the link in the show notes. Now, today we welcome back Alyx Parks. She's a writer, a fly fishing guide, a conviction coach, but more important than all of that, she's an awesome friend. And for this episode, we decided to try something different. I brought 2 topics, she brought 2 topics, we didn't share them in advance, and we pressed record. And the result was an honest, hilarious, and surprisingly insightful conversation about making friends after 30, our complicated relationship with birthdays, why we're so afraid of embarrassment, and the big question everyone wants an answer to, who are all these tattoos for? Please enjoy Bob and Alyx Unhinged. Honestly, I'm excited about this, Alyx, because just to refresh your memory, the way that this kind of new experiment, a kind of episode started was you called me on the telephone machine about a month ago on a Friday about this time, and I look at my phone, which I usually have notifications turned off. I looked at my phone, Alyx is calling. I'm like, why would Alyx be calling? I can tell you 99% of the calls I get on my phone, I ignore. But I looked at that and I thought, okay, it's probably nothing serious. But anyway, I can't remember the last time I picked up a call from somebody to talk about nothing in particular. And it was so much fun, and it was exactly what I needed. And I thought, God damn, we need to have more of those. And wouldn't it have been fun if we had been recording that whole time? So we decided, and in the spirit of experimentation in 2026, why don't we just schedule some time? You bring 2 topics, I bring 2 topics. We don't tell each other what we're going to bring in advance. I don't think this is an original idea. I think I stole it. I might even have stole it from Greg and Whitney, friends of ours. But anyway, that's what we're here to do. And I'm kind of excited. I've been in my own head about a bunch of different things, and I could have moved it. And I'm like, no, I have a feeling this is exactly what I needed today.
Totally. I actually love this because it's less pressure, and it's more of that conversation, and you're grabbing some of the nuggets that you just normally wouldn't get, whether it's like a regular podcast or whatever it is. But I do love the just random call. Your reaction was so perfect. Like, why is Alyx calling? Okay, might as well say hello. And then it just is like, what are you doing?
I know.
And I just think it's so fun to be like, what are you doing? Like, what's happening in your life?
Well, I know. And calls now are like, calls have a purpose, an agenda, and outcomes. And I mean, obviously I've got a few years on you, but there was a time when I was growing up where a phone rang and everybody ran to the phone. It's like, oh, somebody's calling us. It's exciting. It's like somebody coming to the door. Oh, somebody's at the door. Let's run to see who's at the door. Now it's like somebody rings the doorbell and I just turn the lights off, and somebody calls my phone and I just like automatically ignore it. It's like, why would I answer the phone?
It's so strange, and it's so it's interesting because I'm actually 37 tomorrow.
Oh,
funny enough. And so it's one of my topics actually to talk about birthdays, because I think there's just a lot of stuff that surrounds birthdays. But as a pure millennial, I'm right in the cut of growing up with that, like corded telephone, and people actually rang the doorbell, and you go like, "Hey, is Chelsea there? Do you want to play?"
Yeah.
Just being a kid, being able to call. And it's so funny. I mean, now, my phone is always on silent. I block a lot of my notifications. If somebody does go to the door, I am immediately suspicious, almost to the point where if someone knocks on my door in the evening, I feel nervous. And it's totally random to feel like that, but it's just how separate we are these days. And so if there's any advice I could give to anybody listening, it's quite literally just like pick up the phone and randomly call someone that you haven't talked to in a little while and be like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And just lead with that and see how they react, because it's almost like a little gift. If they do pick up the phone and they're like, "Oh gosh, I did miss you." This is good. It's exactly what I needed. So,
Well, I think when people hear that, and when I hear that, because like I said, it was such an amazing surprise when you called me. But when you tell me to do that, I'm like, oh, I could never do that. I'm just going to bother people. And also, I know that when they see my number come up randomly, they're going to assume somebody died or somebody's in a car accident. Like, it's going to be bad news. It's going to like scare the shit out of them. Why would Bob, who I've known for 30 years, who hasn't called me in 15 years, calling me out of the blue?
so we need to change that. And you are so bang on. Somebody calls me and I'm like, "Oh my God, someone died." It's like a trauma response, right? And that we need to actually do everything that we can to condition differently, to just keep calling and be like, "I just missed you," or I'm interested on that project you texted me about the other day. We're and I hate this. I'm not somebody who loves phone calls. But I also really do at the same time when they're warranted and you still have control on whoever you pick up for. So it's a goal, and to stop being like, "Oh my God, Bob's calling me, someone died." Something bad is going to happen because someone's putting in the effort to actually say hi in person. That's wild.
Okay, I'm gonna take you up on that. I am gonna call somebody today. I've got somebody in mind because you're right. It is a bit, we've been conditioned. Like when somebody used to ring the doorbell, we'd rush to the door because it was a world of possibility.
Yes,
What could be happening? What, maybe it's one of my friends. Maybe it's somebody popping in. People used to pop in on my parents to have a drink unannounced. They would just drop in
right?
and it was exciting. And now a doorbell or a phone ringing is terror.
Mail is the same way.
Oh, fucking mail.
Oh my gosh.
I can't remember. You know how much fucking mail is sitting in my mailbox because I don't bring it in? Because there's no good news out there.
It's like, "Oh, your property tax is overdue." Oh, good. Good for me, you know. Yeah, so what's actually interesting about this is I did start. Oh, I wish I could show you. So I ordered some like cool antique looking paper. And in like old Europe, they used to do the wax seals with the stamp.
Yes.
And so I've been starting to send people letters for fun, like, "You know what? I'm just going to be like, 'Hey, what are you doing?' in snail mail. I've been thinking about you. I remember you said this to me once and it was just so powerful. I can't stop thinking about it. And I just wanted to thank you." And I seal it with a little seal so that they open it and it's kind of fun. And I just want to bring just life and love back to receiving mail. Like, how do we condition into this is exciting again? Because everything is stupid with your phone. And, "Oh, I got an email. I've got 40 emails. I'm going to put that away." We're just pushing everything away so much. And how do we accept more love?
I'm excited to receive a letter from you. I look forward to my wife being like, why the fuck is Alyx writing you a letter? Because honestly, the last time I wrote someone a letter was probably like a love letter that I wrote to her like 30 years ago. When
I'm blushing, Mom. I promise this is not going to happen. It's not a love letter. It's like, "Hey, I love our friendship. It's so fun."
That's awesome.
Can we condition out of that too? I feel like I'm ranting at this point, but you're right. There are people that are of the opposite sex than me that I really appreciate as individuals whom I love, that I wouldn't want it to seem like, "Why is she sending you a letter?" Like, it's like a letter is a letter. It's a let's stay in touch, and I think there's just, especially in January, February, when everything just sucks, having a little bit of that romantic feeling of somebody thought of me enough to write a letter, go to the post office, stamp it with some wax thing, and go through that effort. Like, that's better than a phone call. It's just more. It's enriching, and I just want to romanticize my life because I don't anymore. I do it for others, but for myself, it's not happening. I don't know if you feel that same way, but this kind of goes into my topic of birthdays. You just said to me, I'm a little older than you, but the concept of having a birthday and the like, oh, it's almost like the secret grief of changing your life, changing who you are based on the number that you are achieving is just so fascinating to me, and how much you can roll into different versions of yourself just because one day just ticked into a different number. And I'm saying this not for people to go, ugh, I'm going to roll my eyes at Alyx for saying that she's so young. But from 36 to 37 feels like a jump. And I am not somebody who is sensitive around age or number at all. Like, I've had an issue with it, but for some reason, 36 to 37, I feel older. I'm aching more. I've got more gray hairs. I'm doing more with my life, which makes it almost more impossible to feel like I'm moving up in that ladder of my late 30s. And I'm curious if you've ever felt any of that chaos, internal quiet chaos when it comes to your birthday. That's not just I'm old, but the actual feeling of like grieving who you were and now moving into that next rung. Is that something that you think about?
I think about it all the time, maybe differently. And it's funny, I was just talking to sort of a client of mine yesterday who's turning 30 soon, right? And she was talking about, well, kind of mourning the fact that she hadn't really done all the things that she thought she would do by 30. And I think we all kind of carry that around, right? And I sort of think, so I turned 55, and I was at my very first retirement party last night for somebody, and she's younger than me. I don't know if retirement parties are still a thing, but I guess if like, she was a teacher for 31 years. So if you've had one job for 30 years, you probably have a retirement party. But most of us who just change jobs like normal people every 3 or 4 years, I don't know if that's a thing. But I've been really thinking a lot about like where I thought I would be when I was 55 and what retirement means and what it means to go from one thing to the next. So I'm not so sure it's tied to age necessarily, but but it's more about a lot of my friends sort of moving into this next phase of their life. Like we were all kind of young, and then we were all married, and then we all had kids, and we all kind of went through this all together. But now our version of the last 20 years of our life, I think, looks very different. Maybe that's what's scary.
Yeah. I really appreciate that, and it's interesting to listen to the words that we use, like change and scary and just different and, pillars of who we once were. There's so many connotations of, negativity, and this is why that feeling of grief is so interesting, because grief to me is something of, you need to experience that in order to experience change, which is the most positive thing that you can do, because you are manipulating yourself through the world that is throwing all of this different type of change towards you, and so I really want to start looking at birthdays more like you will hear people say, I'm so lucky to reach this number. This is what a feat. And you hear elderly individuals like, I got to 90. Yeah. Or like I got to 80. And so trying to adopt that feeling of, wow, I'm feeling a little bit of that grief of who I once was, but look at what's happening now. From 36 to 37, I exited my life in corporate and started a business. And yes, I'm aching and I've got gray hairs and I've got more stress, but that's a direct relation because I did something pretty monumental in my life. And so maybe the thought is less about, I am 37, I'm older, and it's more about, I hope that I can live up to what I want to achieve in the year that I am now entering. And thinking of it like that, and it's almost like that, like, hey, let's go. Like, this is my year, it's everybody talks about that, but what are the phases that you're going to go through and how are you going to split that year up in order to achieve those milestones and experience that grief because you just keep leaving who you were behind in a positive way. I don't even know if that makes sense. It's a multi-year ramble of what these feelings are, and I love to talk about that because it is just a thing that we all have to go through.
It's maybe even a bit kind of back to conditioning ourselves and how we used to be excited when the doorbell rang. Like when I wonder at what point do birthdays go from this thing that it's like Christmas, like, oh my God, you're a kid and you're turning 8 and it's like the best day and you're so excited to be 8. And at what point do you be like, oh, fuck, a birthday? Like, is it 30? I don't know. It's probably a decade. I don't know. And it definitely is tied back to the things that we thought we would be doing by that age. Because no 8-year-old ever gave us, oh shit, I thought I'd be so much further ahead when I was 8. I'm so depressed.
Right? You know, did you ever do anything when you were younger for your birthdays that you did consistently?
I don't think so.
Like I know people have birthday parties, but I went to Laser Quest until I was like 16 years old. From like 7 to 16, I was like, Laser Quest.
The 16-year-old running around beating the shit out of all the 8-year-olds.
And I'm like, why did I stop going to Laser Quest? When you're 16, you're like, this isn't cool anymore. Like people think I'm lame. But then does it become cool? I mean, I would be like, hard yes, let's go to Laser Quest. When did we start going, ugh, I'm another age, or feeling I don't know if anybody's ever felt this, but feeling just so let down, like, oh, I thought I would maybe spend my birthday and do something really nice for myself. And I didn't, that's another year gone that I had one day to celebrate myself and I didn't book that head massage, or I didn't go and I didn't find a snowy owl like I do usually every year, like, are you just leaving the day disappointing yourself or are you saying like, hell yeah, I went and did all this? You have one day. It's your day. That's it. You get one.
I'm gonna soak on that because we could talk about that for another 45 minutes. But it's time for my first one. Now, there's so much recency bias in this because if we had this conversation this afternoon, I bet it had 2 different topics because I've been kind of cycling through different things, and I saw something on Instagram this morning. I'm like, oh, that would be fucking hilarious. So my topic is tattoos, and I saw this clip with Will Arnett, and they were talking about how their theory is that the more tattoos you have, the less interesting a person you are. And they talked about tattoos being manufactured edge, like something you put on your body to kind of prove to the world that you're more interesting or more edgy than you are. And I'm like, God damn. So I don't know whether you have any ink, but how do you think about tattoos? What do you think about that?
This is crazy timely. Crazy. Like we nailed it. I'm actually so like, and okay, I have so many things in my head. I went to the washroom yesterday and I was like, I had 3 topics and I was like, yes, I'm dialed. This is going to be so good for Bob. And then I walked out and they were gone. And now I'm like, birthdays.
Yeah.
But tattoos, it's so interesting. And so this topic is timely because in March or April, I had found a girl and she is, oh gosh, I really wish I remembered her. Oh, it's right in the tip of my tongue. I will link her tattoo studio. And so Bob, you can share it with the world. But she's a poke tattoo artist. So like, how it's like, it's not a machine, it's poke. They like poke it into you. And it's very, the way tattoos had started back like hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And I was just scrolling through Instagram and I was like, you know what? That is what I would do. And so I do have one tattoo, and I got it when I was 19, and it's on my ribs, and it's my nickname. And so my dad called me Maggie when I was like 3 years old, and then it stuck forever. Like he still calls me Maggie, Mag, Pie, Mag, whatever. So I got that little tattoo on my ribs, and I got it in a stupid orange color. I don't, I don't know. I can't even tell you, so you barely can even see it anymore. Now, I've been very hands off with the idea of getting another tattoo because of that. I don't want to seem like I'm somebody who is wanting to be like a billboard for something. And I'm very unclear if it's something that I would want to keep forever. I it's just I don't know. However, Poor Thing Designs, I believe it is Poor Things Designs. So she actually has a little cottage up in the like Bon Echo region of Ontario, and she's got a little studio that she actually made a little cabin, and it's got a little place for you to stay overnight if you choose, and it's not expensive to stay overnight after you have your experience. But they've really like developed an experience around getting a tattoo, and it's the really poke tattoo. It's like really way back in the day. It's not machine focused, and they really focus on like folky designs that are nature forward. And if anybody has listened to our podcast, so they know anything about me, um, I'm very much nature forward. My business is called Wilder Path. I want people to go outside and find who they are, connect it with what they do, all of those fun things. And so my partner and I, Jamie, we're also fly fishing guides. And they do these really amazing poke tattoos that are fish, and they've got floral accents through them, and they'll do anything that they do. But, it's such a beautiful way, I think, to commemorate who you are and what it is that you want that is inscripted in your body. And it's less for other people and it's more for I'm building this experience. I'm doing this because it's something that I will love for the rest of my life. And it's a way that's not machine focused. It's not a design that's just like on the wall. It's very curated for who you are. And so I just highly recommend it, even though I've not been yet. But that topic is so interesting because it's, to me, more how you view yourself, I think. But others want it for other people, to see, that it's like, look how cool I am, or look at this sick sleeve that I have on this, And so I wish to ask more people about how they felt and what they were thinking about when they got this tattoo or that tattoo. But I'd love to know what you think. I mean, that was such a long ramble, but it's something that we're actively going through to think, do I want this for the rest of my life? And does it fit the structure of who I am on the experience of getting it and the outcome of what it means? What do you think?
Yeah, I love that take, Alex. What I thought was interesting about this is because I was scrolling through on Instagram, right? And it's Will Arnett on some podcast. So rarely do we pause on something and go, because I think what you're touching on is that, I mean, obviously it's a gross generalization meant to generate clicks. I mean, that's how the internet works. But it's like maybe the issue, because I have a tattoo. I got it. I was drunk when I was like, 19 or 20, or maybe I was 21. But the funny thing about tattoos is that the real question is, do you care about anything so much that you would want it on your body for the rest of your life? I mean, that's the thing that always sort of held me back. And maybe the issue is, do you really not care about anything that much? It's sort of this, like, I feel like I should have something that I care about so passionately that I want to put it on my body forever. But the other interesting thing about tattoos is that once you get them, Dax Shepard on Armchair Expert, who's got a ton of tattoos, he talks about it all the time. It's like once you have it for like a month, it becomes invisible to you. Everybody else in the world sees it, but you forget about it. Like I totally forget that I have one on my arm, or you have one on your ribs. So who are you doing it for?
Right? Who are you doing it for? And are you catching yourself and being like, "Ooh, this is going to look really cool. People are going to think I'm cool." Or is it really for you? And if it is,
Yeah.
are you putting it in a place where literally no one can see it? It's like this is just for you. That can't be true. Somebody who puts it on their arm or puts it on their face even, there's still a level of depth to do that to yourself, And so again, I think there's such a interesting like analysis of personality types and what it is that they deeply care for, or maybe they don't care at all. I know somebody who's just like, slap it on.
I know.
So what does that mean? And it's just, I love that idea of, where do you position yourself in the realm of something that's permanent?
Yeah, I think there are lots of people, because tattoos were a big thing. I mean, shit, when I was growing up, like when I got my tattoo, I mean, it's in one of those armband ones. So it's everybody that was born in the early 70s probably has one, where it's barbed wire or whatever. Yeah. And then you have to go and do some extra like tricep extensions and arm curls so that your armband looked cool in the summer.
Yeah.
But before that, like growing up, nobody had a tattoo. Like you were a freaking biker or, a badass to have a tattoo. And then, of course, there was a whole generation of people like just came up with an idea and went and just got them slathered all over themselves. So, yeah, I don't know. It's I thought that was interesting. And it just really comes back to, it's kind of a fun topic, but it really does come back to identity and yeah, I love that. Okay, time for another one. What's your second one that you've got?
Well, it's funny because it does all come back to identity, and I actually love the bridge of that, and my my next topic was talking about finding connection and friendship after 30, and what I love the connection with tattoos and kind of finding your tribe, right? It's, do people who relish the same thing, do they find each other? Do you often find folks who are even in partnership together and one is completely tattooed and one completely isn't? How does that work together? And so I think there's such an interesting dynamic between action and the people you find and the people that you want to spend time with, and also our earlier topic of like the grief of changing, and so my topic is how hard it is to find people after the age of 30, or after the age of, like, maybe you have kids and then everything kind of stops and your world revolves around other things and other people, or your job. Typically people enter their job and their coworkers become their friends. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying this as my best friends right now I've met at work, and for some context, I am specifically somebody who has moved around a lot. I went to 3 different high schools. I don't have the squad that, when that came out, I don't know if you remember that, but back in the 2010s, it was like, oh, I'm with the squad, and they all take pictures together. And I felt depleted in terms of like just how I felt about myself and the world, because I didn't have one. I never had a squad. So if anybody here is listening and you felt attacked by that word, call me because I want to talk about it. But I find that finding friendships is so extraordinarily difficult, when you reach a certain age, but it's also, I think, until you reach a certain, individualistic view of yourself. And then you are thinking more of like, I don't care. I'm just going to go over and say hi to that person, and I'd love to know your take on this, Bob, because I know that you have had friendships that are very long standing, and I just don't have that anymore. Like, I'm not even friends with my friends from university, and so typically my group right now are people who do not know each other. Some do, but some don't. They are all over, and I've met in the last 5 years. And so what does that say about who you're becoming as a person? Like the confidence layer that has decided to just encapsulate you, what does that look like? So I'd love your take on the idea of, or the thought of, making new connections and actually keeping them, and then not being Bob and Alyx knew each other for a year or two, and now it's like, they're just somebody I used to know. Cue that sick song.
I know. By the way, my niece and nephew sang that song live at the retirement party last night. It was just like, oh yeah, I brought the house down. It was amazing.
What a weird coincidence.
I know.
That's crazy.
Well, first thing, I don't have any friends from high school either, but I also think, and I might come back to that, but the other thing too is that like my son didn't never got a graduation, so he didn't get, because of the pandemic, he didn't get grade 12, and then my other son kind of missed grade 10 and 11 or whatever. So is like a whole cohort of kids that basically had a year of high school, 2 years of high school, and what they did get was kind of fucked up and fragmented. And so some of them come out of that with friends and some of them don't. So I think there's definitely like a disruption of friendships in those formative years. My wife still has great friendships with the people that she went to high school with. I just don't.
Interesting.
So that's a bit of an anomaly. I went away to university because I wanted to reinvent myself. I didn't want to really have anything to do with kind of the reputation and the person that I was kind of known to be in high school. And so it's no accident that I don't, hang around or keep in touch with any of them. But I also don't have a ton of friends from university either. I do have a couple for sure. But I think most of my friends, like you said, with kids, like every one of my close friends now lives in the neighborhood that I live in. All their kids are within 2 or 3 years. Like we kind of just stumbled into each other. And now all of our kids are grown up and they hang out and, go to the bars and do cottage weekends, etc. together. I have no idea who my friends would be. And if you believe that you are, kind of the sum of the people you hang around with, who I would be if I just didn't happen to move into this neighborhood and happen to find the people that happen to be having kids at the same time and also happen to love having drinks on the weekends. I would be unrecognizable.
Oh, that's fascinating. As you were saying that too, I felt such a shift in that, I'm probably going to remain child free. And so, what about all those people, who remain child free and their neighborhood is filled with kids and people who have that life going on,
Mm,
but you don't, and you don't see it often, and I shouldn't say that. I mean, it's everywhere, but it's also, you just notice when people have their families and their kids, and that's the activities that they move forward and they do. And as somebody who is 37 tomorrow, it's very, my life is, do I want this? Am I going to regret it? Am I going to regret not doing that? Is my social circle going to be that much bigger in order to create? It's such an interesting thing, and I wish more people, and especially more women, I wish that they felt more free to speak about being child free, and what that might look like,
mm,
and how partners talk about it, and the fear of, are you going to leave me? Is in 10 years you want a kid and you still can't,
right.
and not to get like deep and philosophical on this, but I think this is a topic that's completely warranted to speak about, especially if you are somebody who is thinking about the idea of either becoming child free or has kids and is struggling to find friendships because it's so busy. If you're in my age category or if you're in yours, what it's like to be an empty nester. My mom's going through that right now, and it's such a different layer of grief, and so it always comes back to that development year over year and changing who you are and who you will become and everything like that. So I've been very tuned in to what it is that I want and what I don't want. And I'm so curious. I'm so curious to hear if anybody else is actively really thinking about it this way and how often they're actually talking about it, how much they're showing up to people or going to a coffee shop and saying, I've noticed you here a few times. I'm Alyx. This is my favorite coffee shop.
Yeah.
I actually met one of my best friends, Jenny. She's she's the baker at the Little Paris Bread Co. And it's a wonderful place that has lineups out the door. They're sold out almost every single day that they're open. And it's all sourdough. And April is the owner and Jenny does the the baking. And I started to get to know her a few, over the few months that I started going, and I just stopped and said, I really like your stuff. Do you want to go for coffee with me sometime? And she was like, yes, I do. And to receive a response, I go, yeah, for sure, and then becoming so undeniably close is just one of the biggest gifts I've ever received, and um I just I wish that I could ask people to try and do that more, stop somebody that you've seen before, ask somebody, hey, I mean, I really love your jacket. Where'd you get it? You look amazing today. It's that compliment, that movement into someone's space, in a place where we reject phone call, reject door ringing, and we're trying to be somebody that we want to be, but we need the people to help us become that. Just like yourself, I'm a completely different person since I've met you, and I will always thank you. So I don't know. I think the topic of making that connection and big decisions in your life, are compounded by the people that you decide to open up to and say hello.
Yeah, well, there's so much there. And, even you describing you walking up to a complete stranger in a bakery, like it just feels like one of the most vulnerable things we can do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just makes me feel like a 6-year-old kid walking up to a stranger in the playground and say, "Do you want to be my friend?"
No.
And I don't remember feeling any fear about that, but yeah, what if they said no?
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to think, okay, no problem. It's not a fit. I'd go out, happily go about my day. And, I would be fucking devastated if I did that as a 55-year-old dude that's done lots of cool things in his life. And yet one perfect stranger could be like, yeah, no, sorry, I don't want to be your friend. I think I would be destroyed.
But how often does that happen? Like, can somebody
Yeah.
please call in and be like, hey,
Call in.
I would be very interested in hearing that story and what that was, and it's just a communication. I mean, gosh, I mean, Bob, like if you walked up to somebody and let's say you went to an open mic night and then you saw them there next time, completely complete stranger, and you walked up and you said, you were just fantastic. I could not stop thinking about your set for this entire week. I'm Bob. I'd love to chat with you a little bit more. Like, I think they're gonna go away. You're
Well, that's the story that we tell in our heads. They're going to go back to their table and be like, yeah, that fucking loser over there just asked to be my friend. And it's like, that would never fucking happen. They'd be like, oh my God, that's the greatest thing anybody's ever said to me.
the thing that we actually hear the most is people who you think would have an extraordinary amount of friends and connections actually say, I am really lonely. Like, I feel like I don't have
Yeah.
any friends. And then you feel shocked and you're like, shut up. No way. You do this, you run these events, you are the life of the party every time, yet you feel like you don't have any friends. That actually shocks me more than anything else when it comes to connecting with people. And I am a self-portrayed introvert. Like, I am like, I'm not going to that house party. Nope. Nope. I'm staying home. I'm going to put my pajamas on. Cheetos. Cheetos call my name more than going and meeting people at a house party, But I love stopping somebody. There was a woman in a freaking red dress, and she was absolutely like, her red dress was flowing, and she's walking down Paris. I live in Paris in the Grand River Street, and I was like, you are show stopping. Like, I could not look at her, and I had to stop her, and I was like, you look amazing. I just really wanted to tell you that. And she just went, really? Like it was almost like a devastating realization, that what I said to her slapped her, because all of a sudden it was like, really? And it was correct. It was like, yes, you do. That's my observation. Don't reject it. And then watch her walk away. I mean, literally the aura and the confidence, it exuded from her. And I'm like, God, if I can do that for multiple people, why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
But why wouldn't I? Like, you are amazing, or I've noticed this. And it's just a gift that we can give that is also going to give back, because we're going to get more and more connections. And it's just something that I love.
I love that too. Do you think I would get maced if I would have went up to
Maybe.
her and said something? Yeah.
Pick your people. Pick your people, you know. That's actually would I get maced? I think this is a good podcast episode for you. And the title will be Would I Get Maced? And it's like
Right.
just scenarios. I would love to be a part of that podcast.
Me too. Okay, the last one that I've got. So let me tell you just a quick story. So again, totally recency bias. I get up. So we went to this retirement party last night about 11 o'clock. I bug out. I drive a couple people home. Um, there's a cohort that kind of stays around and then goes out to a bar afterwards. And it's a mix of like Kelly, my sister-in-law, she was retiring after 31 years. She was a high school teacher. So you've got teachers, former students, kind of going out to a bar together, right? Because my kids went to the school that Kelly teaches at, and so they know the teachers that were at the party, and it was just a cool kind of vibe. And they went out and had a couple drinks afterwards, and so they were out to like 2 or 3 in the morning. My oldest son has a full-time job; he graduated, so he's a real adult now. And I'm sitting downstairs because I get up at 5:30 like I usually do, and it's like 7:15. I'm like, it's pretty quiet upstairs. I'm pretty sure he's supposed to be up by now. So I go up and I just kind of, wake him up, and he kind of wakes up and then rolls over and goes back to bed. And I'm like, I'm just going to let him sleep in. Like, I'm going to let him be late for work because we all know that feeling, right? Like when you're hungover and you wake up and you look at the clock and you were supposed to be at work 20 minutes ago and you jump out of bed and your head is pounding and you want to throw up and you're out the door in 10 minutes. You get halfway to work and you don't have your phone and you're wearing like 2 different socks and you haven't brushed your teeth and your whole day is fucked. Like not only are you hungover, but just nothing is going to go right, right? And it's that feeling that prevents us from doing that shit over and over and over again. We probably still do it many more times, but you have to go through it. So I have a feeling that if I asked 10 of my friends, would they let him sleep in? I think most people would say, no, I'd get him up. I'm not going to let him be late for work. And I'm like, so I'm not saying whether it was right or wrong, but it kind of comes back to this idea of failure. Like I'm so afraid he's going to get to work and then get in trouble, or it's like, you're late for work. It's not a big deal. And so I just think about like this idea of failure and why we're so afraid of it. Probably goes back to why we were reluctant to walk up to complete strangers and ask to be their friend. Because even leaders in companies, they talk about creating a safe culture where we encourage failure. It's like, it's all bullshit. Like if everybody in that company is growing up with the same hangups that I have about failure and my friends have, and I'm trying not to instill in my kids, everybody's fucking afraid of failing all the time. And more than that, I guess it's not actually failure. It's about judgment. Like it's failure being embarrassed or getting in trouble. Like I have fail and I'm on a desert island. I don't give a shit about failing. I'm just going to keep going on and on and on. But there's 20 people watching me, I'm terrified of it. So I don't know. It's kind of that idea of failure and judgment. And I'm curious how you think about that.
I've been thinking a lot about this because failure is a thing that we just can't avoid. It's like death. As morbid as that sounds, it's like it's gonna happen. You're going to go through it. You're going to say goodbye to a lot of people, right? And failure, it's going to happen because you are a beginner at everything before you actually are good at it, and we all get mad at those people who are just excellent test takers. Oh, I didn't have to study. I did really well. Like, screw you. You're like some of us have to work really, really, really hard. Some of us are kind of like, oh, I kind of looked it over and I'm good, but it's still the same thing. There's still that, yeah, probably going to fail at this. And so the acceptance of, okay, what does it get me? Right? Like failure is going to get me what? Well, it's going to get me to know what exactly not to do next time. Excellent. So you're just better. You're better and you're better and you're better. No matter how many times you have to fail, at least it's a path that's actually carving through a place that you wouldn't have been able to get through before if you hadn't started. So I think failure is just a natural and ingrained part of us because we do it all the time. I asked my dog, come give me a hug, and I failed because she flipped me the paw and was like, F off. No. And I can take that and feel like maybe my dog like hates me, but that's us in our head. We're judging ourselves so much more than other people are judging, right? They're all so all consumed
Yeah.
in who they are that they don't care about us. That being said, if I see somebody embarrass themselves, I'm going to laugh and I'm going to go and be like, are you okay? Because I can put myself in that scenario much more than I think that they're weird and silly and stupid for doing something like that. My reaction of laughing is like, oh, yeah, I can imagine that that's brutal. I've been there, like, oh, I don't want to experience that. And then I go and I say, hey, are you okay? You just flipped over your handlebars, I mean, that's painful, but you know what I mean? So I just, like, when you go and you go sing, and I'm super fearful. I'm super afraid of being judged. Like, you're just thinking about the judgment before it even happens, right? And then every time you get off the stage, people are like, bah! So, like, are you just paying rent before it's due? Because that's what it seems like. Why would you give the landlord all of this money up front when you don't have to? You just pay for it when it's happening. If somebody goes up and says, that was really bad, then you can feel judged.
Right.
But before that, don't pay the rent before it's due. And this has been really hard for me to work through personally. So I have a lot of opinions about it because it's something that I struggle with. And I don't want people to think that it's something that I don't. It's an active recovery of always thinking I'm judged and always feeling like I'm going to fail, so I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
But okay, you're going to fail forward anyway. You're not going to fail backwards unless you die. And if you do, I'm really sorry.
Yeah. Well, it's also kind of timely as you were talking because it made me realize I'm doing a keynote speech for a company in Toronto next week. First time I've done one of this kind. And I can't tell you, like, hundreds of hours I've spent put into this. And I think and if you looked at a pie chart of how I've spent my time, or at least even like what is occupying my mind, how present am I? What am I spending my conscious thoughts, my brain power on? And you looked at a pie chart over the last 2 weeks, it's 98% this talk. It's 1% my kids and my wife. It's 1% like whatever I'm watching on Netflix. Like, it's insanely distracting. It's the first thing I think about when I wake up. It's the last thing I think about before I go to bed. And I think, like, why on fucking earth? Like, 80 strangers, because I'm afraid of being embarrassed. I'm afraid of forgetting what I'm going to say. I'm doing a shitty job. And yet, if you put yourself in the seat of somebody in that room, like, they've got 100 other things to worry about. If it's not the best speech they've ever heard, they're just let their mind drift. And it's not like they're going to sit there and go, oh my God, this guy's a fucking disaster. Like, it's just all these stories that we tell in our head. And I just been thinking a lot lately about, like, where does this crippling fear of embarrassment come from? Because, like, honestly, there's nothing I should be spending that much time thinking about other than my kids and my wife and my friends. Like, nothing else is that important. Nothing in the fucking world. And yes, I know it's going to go great. And then I'm going to look back and go, like, well, part of it too is, well, it went great because I spent all this time preparing. And so it's kind of self-fulfilling.
It's actually really interesting because nothing is more important than, my kids, but realistically, you are, I mean, you are living in your brain, in your body. And so naturally, you want to preserve. You want to be like, I'm important right now, and so it's all consuming. And while those other things matter, a lot of people always push like they're the ones that matter the most in my life. But realistically, it's you and them, right? And so the other piece is, where that crippling embarrassment and fear comes from because you've had that experience before when you were younger. I think I've heard you talk about this as well. And so being able to kind of nail down, like, why am I carrying that with me for so long and into a zone where I'm 55 years old? Like, this is a topic I know an exceptional amount about. And if you do hundreds of hours of work, it's never going to be bad, ever,
Yeah,
you know?
I
And
know.
so it's just like one of my favorite things in the world is just thinking, future Bob has it dialed. Like future Alyx got it, I mean, nothing has killed me yet. Nothing has made me feel like I was less than and I could not go on, And so future Alyx and future Bob, present Bob's done all of the work, hundreds of hours of work. And so future Bob is nailing it. I've got this. And so let's not think about future Bob because they're already doing it and they're already making waves and it's already happened and it was excellent because you've done all the work now in order to make it the best that it could possibly be. And all of those people who are sitting there, just like you said, 99% of their brain are thinking about the really scary, hard thing that they have to do because they're not thinking of future them already dialed and like getting it done. So it's such an interesting act of self-care to think future Bob is awesome. Like has literally gotten me through everything thus far. The first time you started speaking, super scary, super terrifying. Future Bob killed it. So that you have this experience. You can do this again and you're going to get more and more and more. And this has really helped me with building a business that I am not completely certain that people are going to actually get something from, right? Everybody's different. Everybody takes care and self-development, empathy for self completely different. And so having the ability to say, I can coach this person because Alyx got it dialed. She's going to grab it. She's going to know what to say when they say the hard thing. I have to rely on future me because if I didn't, I would not be doing this business. I would not be able to move forward. And so thinking about that and what's the word? Delegating, delegating the feeling to future you when you're in that moment and feeling it in the present has been one of the most effective tools that I've been able to actually use for myself and for the people who go through this. But it is real, and again, failure. Like you have to say, let's go. We're going to do it together. It's going to happen. So that's what I think.
Yeah, delegating to future you. I really like that. And I say this to other people and I don't know how much comfort it brings me, but I'll share it and see how it lands with you, because I do think it's okay to accept that you will look back on this and cringe. Like that is a sign of growth where you're going to look back on this day. I'm going to spend hundreds of hours on this. And there will come a day a couple of years from now, we'll look back and be like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. And because that's how you know you're growing. That's how you get from A to B. And you've got to see everything as an experiment. It's just an experiment. And we're going to see how it goes. And the measure of success is not 5-star ratings and everybody sobbing at the end and hugging me afterwards. It's getting through it, seeing what worked, and doing it a little different next time.
It's so funny that you gave that example because I've literally been there when people were crying and hugging you, saying that life. So, that's
I know, and that was my first time, and it's kind of like a high bar to
not at all, and that's interesting, right? I mean, super nervous and future Bob, I crap, and so it's just, even if you're like, I do this well, and I do this all the time. I'm like, oh, I'm so self-critical, where my partner Jamie is like, you have to just relax. That's that A-type intense, like, oh, I just finished a 60-page workbook that I shot off to San Diego. And I was like, oh my God, I should have added three more chapters in exercises. And Jamie had to like grab me and say, it's good. It's good. Right.
yeah.
And so if you can just grab yourself and say, it's good, and then just let it go, just let it rock and roll, let future Bob, future Alyx, just let it ride, then you are just going to be continuing down that path of freaking, I'm excellent in my choices to do something. And that's all it needs to matter.
I've loved this conversation. So we've talked about birthdays, tattoos, friendship as we get older, and failure and judgment. Oh my God. Like it's such a interesting hodgepodge of topics, but central themes of kind of identity and fear and the things that kind of hold us back and the judgment that we feel for ourselves and we fear getting from others. Man, how much fun is this? Like, this is going to sit with me. The interesting thing about being surprised by topics, and I've had to accept this because it's not something that I have to deal with as much on my regular episodes where I've got guests and I do a ton of preparation for, is that I know that I'm going to come up with a slew of things like tomorrow as I reflect on it. It's like, oh my God, how did I not say that? That would have made me sound so smart. That would have been like the greatest thing to say in response to that. But because you don't have time to prepare, it's very spontaneous. That's what makes it so much fun. But yeah, it's going to be some of that. I'm going to have to come to terms with that. And you might get a phone call in the next few days like, oh my God, I can't believe we didn't talk about this.
I'd be offended if I didn't get a phone call. Like, I call you, can you call me back?
Well, you called me once.
No, I've called you definitely more than that. But this was the time that it was, I think it was a longer stint between talking. And so probably seemed shocking.
Right.
I do love, though, the shower thoughts of, oh, I should have said that. It's like when you're fighting with somebody in the shower or, you had a great conversation. I should have said that. But those can just become more conversations and bigger pieces and more podcasts and more things to write on Substack. Like, this is great because you are just showcasing and seeing how much you care about the topic at hand, and it comes across, and I wouldn't want it any other way. This has been a great time with you. Thank you for having me and talking about everything and nothing all at the same time.
I know, everything and nothing. We're going to have to come up with like a name for these kinds of episodes. Maybe that's it right there. I thought about unhinged or something like that, but yeah, it's everything and nothing all at once. I wasn't sure because part of the agreement that you and I made was that let's just try this, and if we get to the end of it and be like, oh, that was a disaster, nobody's ever going to hear this but you or I can't wait to release this.
I know, I can't.
So, people are going to fall in love with you like I have, and I'll put links in the show notes where they can find you and all the amazing things you do on Substack, your website. And this has been so awesome, Alyx.
It's been awesome. I would love to come back and be just even more unhinged, And so maybe it's unhinged or shoot the shit or whatever it is, but these are my favorite podcasts to do now because it's just real. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you. The Growth Mixtape podcast with Bob Mathers is produced by Bespoke Projects. Music by Jean-Michel Walter Cronkite. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to follow and rate us. When you do this, it helps to raise our podcast profile so that more people can find us. If you want to connect, you can find me on LinkedIn using the link in the show notes.